The next lecturer is here, and you will really like him when you see him. I will wait until you see him so you understand. We have the pleasure and the privilege of having with us pharmacist Yusuf Hassan Wada. Here is his basket. Yusuf is a pharmacist with a long-standing commitment to global health and leading partnership buildings with global initiatives that align with UHC attainment, the universal health coverage. Personally, he works as a health policy and advocacy officer, African region with Society for Family Health, and a fellow of the International AIDS Society. Supporting SFH, that is Society for Family Health policy positions, and engaging with government and policymakers at national and subnational level on health system strengthening initiatives, including health financing, human resources agenda for health, and health service organization agenda. Since 2022, pharmacist Hassan Wada has served as a co-chair for the National Institute for Health, Martin Delany Collaboratory, and as a member of the Community Advisory Board for Pediatric Adolescent Viral Elimination, a Johns Hopkins University-led research consortium for finding HIV cure in pediatric populations. In addition, he has a strong background in working with diverse teams, technical working groups, and co-creating strategic priorities, including publishing over 30 papers. There should be a number of course. Yes, because when you are involved with moving around, doing so much policy program work, and you have 30 papers, sister, brother, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. So, including commentaries and policy briefs in high-impact peer-reviewed journals, including The Lancet, PLOS ONE, PLOS NTDS, BMC Public Health in Practice, among others, and presented research outputs at various local and international conferences. He also had the honor of receiving the West African Institute of Public Health ID Fellowship 2023, HPPA 2022, and VIP 2021. I have received over 20 grants and scholarship to attend CROI, that's Community Scholarship Recipient 2023, Society for AIDS in Africa, Abstract Scholarship Recipient, European AIDS Clinical Society Scholarship Recipient, and 3 times Community Scholarship Recipient for a fully funded trip to attend the World HIV Conference in Canada, Australia, and Germany. He has also been invited to serve as a special delegate and observer for the United Nations General Assembly 70th and 79th in New York. He also has served in several roles, international roles, including being a youth ambassador, change maker, young leader, abstract presenter, 2021, 22, 23, fellow for HIV Call Academy, 2021, 2022, global rapporteur, AIDS 2022, and NESG 2023 and 2024. Mentor, abstract mentorship program, regards for illicit tenders. United Nations America related organization. Please let's clap for this young man. I'm extremely proud of him. Let's welcome pharmacist Yusuf Wada. You are welcome. Please welcome the president of
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan. I work with Society Pharm. I'm a young pharmacist, so I think I've gone so many places with the persons. It has done a lot for me. It's a pleasure to actually share. I also work with the lab for publishing. Maybe let's talk before this slide. And I think that Prof have really shared what really we need to know. I also have said a lot about what really research is and what I present. just like you said, in academia, people actually do promotions. But I felt the world is changing. For many people who are work with industry, so a lot of products, you require to publish your protocols, your products, your randomized control trials for even regulatory agencies to actually use it. And I think for many of us in public health, it's quite the same. Many grants, you don't receive them if you haven't published what you have done. So even so many things we have done, not really what people go to the lab, what really we do implementation sciences, public health activities, and quite a lot more. So we do them we publish them for many to learn for a lot of things. So I think it's actually something that many of us can leverage. And I know for many young people who are here, I think the easiest way to Japan is through publications. The UK is actually bringing what they call a talent visa. I know many people go everywhere, which it comes with PR. I know for many people who go to the US, it's also the same story. So I felt it's something that we can actually leverage and we can get a lot of students. So like he said, I think with publication last year, I could get a scholarship of almost 8 countries. I was in Europe in 5 countries. I was at the UNGA to present key findings with us, and I think it does through publication. So I felt it's something important we can really do, and I will try as much as possible to share what I've learned. I think basically that's what I'll do. I'm still not an expert, but I'll share what I've learned within this journey. So I think the first key thing I will share is if we know what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. And that's really what it is. You actually test so many crazy ideas you have learned to say, how will it resonate with you? How will it resonate with people? And for us in public health, the first key thing is that today, for Society for Family Health, one of our policy positions is that we felt even 60% of people who actually go to healthcare settings doesn't go to the clinic. They actually go to, for example, community pharmacies, they go to PPMs. So one of our policy positions is that, see, this 60% of people are actually going to this community pharmacy to get their common health care. But every day the government is actually going, no, let's do primary health care, let's not have it. Yesterday I was in a meeting with the minister, I was saying, no, they have actually revitalized 8,000 something primary health care, which is something we could learn from so many countries. People don't have access to medications, people don't have access to vaccine. We know the UK who have advanced healthcare. They go to CVS to get their medication, their jabs, and quite a lot more. So I think that's really what the first key thing we're doing. In 2017, I think I was still in pharmacy school. Society for Family Health started something what they call proof of concept to say, no, government, people are actually going to community pharmacies, but there is no even data to actually inject, for example, the National Registry, the DHI. So how do you ensure that even the first key thing is actually to do that? They say, no, we are doctors, the pharmacists, no, we won't allow that. We say, no, the Gates Foundation said, we need some money to actually provide a proof of concept. Does it work? So I think even to an extent in 5 years, we can see even community pharmacies and family planning, use of percent. It's actually policy, and call it tax shifting, tax sharing. So I think it's the first key bottom line is those research, those publications that are out there, it has actually informed government to change policies. Not really saying, no, research doesn't work. So a lot of things. I can remember we actually wrote a research card in 2021 saying mental health is actually a burden. The next thing after, I think, 6 months, the Regs actually come for a bill to actually say, no, mental health act to the past, which Buhari signed in 2022. So you don't know what really, you might have crazy ideas. You might think it doesn't have influence, but people look up to it, you might really change the world. So I think that's really the first key in what this slide is saying. I think I've just said this, in academia, many sort of publications are very critical. Even getting grant now is different. A lot of donors say, no, what have you done? I'm not actually going to fund you for pilot or to full scale. So that's really what it means. This slide is actually a bit important for me. I remember when I started my journey in 2021, there was actually that picture, I think it's even Wada in Lagos, when COVID came. So what really happened is that the first picture you will see, not really clear, is actually even pre-COVID. So many people, so many things were happening. The second picture in the middle is actually around how empty it was. So basically, people go to research to actually say, no, this has actually impact. Why not to do so many things? So many literatures actually get published to say, no, this doesn't work, which actually led to so many things that even Pfizer, Moderna, and quite a lot of things put billions of dollars to actually get a vaccine. So basically, before even they get that vaccine, so many those trials, they actually publish their data. People critique it, people see it, regulatory agencies, stakeholders, and quite a lot more to actually inform that. So not only policy, even industry, even money, even market, even investment, publication is quite not important. So, and I think the first key problem I felt for many of us in publication is actually that first picture at the right corner, the impact. Writing is 90% procrastination and 70% and 30% to just planning. So many times I actually sit down, no, I need to write a paper. It takes 2 months looking at it, what do I even write? You sit down 1 hour, you have finished it. So that's really how it is. You just need that zeal, you need to think outside the box, and you just need to actually look around what's really the impact, what are you really getting from it? And I think that's really what's the bottom line. I think the next thing is many people don't even know there is difference between what journal is, what an article is, and what publishing house is. For this slide, it's actually just showing publishing houses. There are actually hundreds of journals, like BMC Springer is actually where we actually talk around nature. So BMC Springer is a publisher, just like normal company, just like Airtel, MTN. They just publish things, but they are journals under them. They are just out for profit. There's actually a Savior, there's actually Plus, and quite a lot of them, but they have hundreds of journals under them. So those BMC Springer is actually, for example, you see there's BMC Public Health, there's BMC Pharmacy, there's BMC. So a lot of them. So like someone asked, where can you even publish? Where is those journals? And see, the first key thing or the first lesson I would like us to take is for us in low middle income countries, or many of us want to publish, as much as we have quantitative work, you actually have a place in these journals. They are the biggest publishing house in the world. So if you see Elsevier, for many of us that know Lancet, one of the best journals in the world, so it's actually been indexed or it's actually published by Elsevier. BMC Springer, you will see the picture that we should just discuss. It's actually a publishing house under BMC Springer. And one of the key things we need to take is for BMC Springer, last year they actually brought a policy that they got a lot of funds from donors to actually say if you are from low middle income country, you can actually publish for free. We have actually got this, I think over 5 journals were published from last year to today. Really, no one, we haven't paid any time. So you can actually go to BMC Springer, start to see so many journals. As much as you have an affiliation from Nigeria, you actually get a 300% waiver. This is just showing a difference between what an article, a journal, and a database is. You can see a screenshot of what they call PubMed. That's really what we call a database. So after you publish, there's actually what we call, she said, your own keywords, or your own title, or your own abstract. When a publishing house or a journal is actually having a database or is indexed under a database, for example, PubMed. As much as when you publish, you see your article being like a duplicate put there for people to actually see. So that's really what a database is. So there are many. You can hear something like Scopus. When a journal reaches certain impact factor, you could see, they will say, oh, it's actually Scopus paper, it has an index of 1.73. What really it means is not the journal, but it has reached a certain quality that it can be put under those databases, like Scopus, like Web of Science, like PubMed. So one key important of using journals that have those key things is that you actually have increased visibility, you have an increased impact, and you have increase of even seeing your article. Because for example, today, I just go to Google, I just search for this article, I need this. You hardly see a journal comes up, you actually see PubMed comes up. So that visibility you have, or that index, because it's actually indexed under a database. The PubMed is actually just a library of the National Institute of Health in the US. So it actually helps you for visibility because it's actually, you don't see money to pay, it's actually open access. So when someone is doing a systematic review or meta-analysis, you want to put a lot of the policy maker want to do something. The first thing they see is actually problem. It has reached some certain quality. So even when we actually put to publish, we should actually look around the journal index in those good databases for visibility. So I think that's really what it means. Articles are actually published in a journal, while journals are indexed in a database. That's really what the whole of this thing is doing. So the database are many, Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed, a lot of them. So it depends on what really a journal is indexed. This actually something I actually put a table. I don't know how visible or not it is, but it's just showing how you can find the right journal. I had someone asking around, how do I even check for journals? There's no right way of checking a journal. You might just see BMC public health, you might see something. There are some. What you want is I just show 4 things. The first is a journal finder.
Okay, that you want to buy
when you go to Elsevier, you go to
yes.
Nature. There are quite a lot of them, but the major are 4. And we actually have a journal finder. And down you see write so many journals. When you go there, you find your own journal. The next thing you could do is actually find a scope. For every journal, when you go to the right corner, you see a journal scope. That's really why you get all your answers. It will tell you, no, we're actually interested in a review article. We're actually interested in our journal article. We're actually interested in journal metrics. Journal metrics is not really much important, but as much as you go through your career, you actually feel it. I actually published maybe in the first journal that is not indexed in actually a good database. But now I can tell you what really moved me is actually today. Someone told me, oh, let's publish in Lancet, let's publish in Nature. They're actually the highest that you could do. So this table, I know when this slide is shared, so it actually talks around what really even the right shows what even a citation is, what's really an impact factor is. Those are those metrics that will guide you to choose a journal. While the one on the left is actually showing their journals that you could see they call them open access. Open access, they might be green, they might be gold. What really it means is that some journals doesn't offer a 100% waiver. You see people, oh, you must pay $3,000 to publish. But a journal that have so many open access, it will actually tell you that if you have a gold, if you have a green, it actually tell you that everyone can access it freely. But when it tell you the other way is that someone has to pay. You go to a journal, you say, oh, you have to pay some money, maybe $10, $20, $30. So the visibility you could actually say is very less because people in the global north might really have free access from their universities, from their library. But you here, people can't really access your work. So that's really what it means. So I actually wanted to put this. I know she actually talked around nature. This is actually something you can actually look at later. There's actually a journal, like I said, which we call Lancet. Like I said, it's actually one of the highest publications. Last year, I think, or ending 2023, we actually sent like 5, 6, 7 articles. When you send it in 30 minutes, you get rejected. Say how? How do you publish in Lancet? I actually published 25 at that time. We actually wanted people to answer. But what I did was actually to even check the editor to actually send him an email. See, we have this work, we explain our rationale and methodology was so good. The first time he said, no, they actually rejected. He said, no, you can't publish it. Nigeria actually said they wanted to win this government. They actually wanted to put 63 million people vulnerable on insurance. We actually went to a meeting, we debated it, everything. The minister said, no, he doesn't want. So we said, no, we have those ideas. Why not tell people to actually do it? They actually go to the Lancet, draft a policy paper, we send it. They said, oh, that's really good. We actually have space constrained this, what you did. We actually got to publish a Lancet. And every last year, we actually have a policy work we did around how do we even integrate HIV, family planning, and TB into the health benefit package. We actually did a lot of work then the government changed the health insurance leadership. We felt, how do we even tell people that we have done this work? Because we need to take ownership. We actually went to a Lancet journal because the other one was Lancet Global Health, the best in the world. The other one was Lancet HIV, which is just an email. Just send them, oh, we have this big follow-up. They say, I'll go ahead and wait, put in the cover letter and do this. So what I wanted to share is, the more you do, there are also a back end to so many things. Sometimes even those journals don't even read. We have those issues around global south and north. They are all already issues. They actually sometimes push their narrative, just like media county. So also sometimes you need to push to actually say, oh, this is what you need. Take ownership, try to push those key things. So we have published 2 articles in Lancet, and I think it goes beyond the normal traditional way of sending journals and quite a lot of things. So that's really why this story was here. This is just showing some checkups. I know she talked around how can you draft your abstract, your introduction, your methodology, your result, your conclusion, and reference. So this is actually a checklist that we can check later. But just to actually just talk around this slide is actually that if you have an article and your methodology is sound and robust, the rest assured there's no journal that will actually tell you if it falls within their scope. I doubt if there's any journal that will tell you no. The highest will say, oh, let's go to peer review and we'll just be going back and forth. But try as much as possible for your methodology to not have any errors or any issues. Methodology is very important. That's what is the good research and a bad research. And basically for methodology, I know many people go to do surveys, go to do lab and everything. And I felt one key thing we don't really put on is for our methodology, we tend to hide so many things, or we don't really tell them. For example, I'm actually doing those works that I just said. But I went to methodology, I'm just saying that, no, I actually developed my questionnaire. For example, how do you do that? How was it validated? What's your face validity, your content validity? I've got even to understand that, sometimes face validity, I met some lecturers, I gave them, oh, we have actually gone beyond that. What's your ICC rate? What's your reliability? They are quantitative analysis to this thing. So as much as possible, try as much, even when you have things that are not really up, try as much for your methodology to actually be very, very good. And the other thing I could say is your conclusion. And I think I have been a victim. So many times, we actually go to do so many good research, but we overestimate our conclusion. And I think my first research, when I started, we actually did a study on prevalence of drug abuse or something. That was my first research. We went there, we actually went beyond even prevalence. We're saying, no, these are the position, or these are the chains that actually possible. I actually I could remember that story. We actually wrote a research. That was my first. We went through the good article and sent it. The reviewer, which I felt is a Nigerian, I don't know, is actually an international journal. He wrote a 5-page. 5 page. I have the screenshot of it. The guy wrote a 5-page. He wrote a 5-page, telling everything. He wrote the objective, even the title. He wrote over a half page, saying, "Oh, this actually is the deal." He wrote everything, but I think that's really the best thing that has happened. Because I sat down, I digested. Even the co-author is actually a mentor. He said, I don't think we can do that. That's a problem. I'll look at it. He was trying to say something. The methodology was stupid. He was saying, how do we design this? Actually, because at that time, we actually surveyed 3 universities. Our sample size was 280 or something. They said, no, it's not possible. How many are there? I learned so many things. I think till today, I go back to look at it to see how substance that was. So those corrections we do get from reviewers or our lecturers or criticism, I think those are things that really help us. So no one can tell me today to go back to those mistakes that I made. There are new ones that emerge every day. But I felt those key things are really, really worked out. So that methodology is important. And I think introduction not really something, as much as you can really justify what your objective is, your result and discussion is actually more comparison, critiquing people who want to have this thing, which I felt really, really nice. So that's really a summary of what this is for. I had someone saying, how do we get concept and ideas? And I think the best key thing I have had to myself is actually create people's work. Every day you meet people work. Every day you see new ideas. Every day you see gap. Every day you see new things that have been made. So I actually share this to actually say, sometimes I actually go to journals I want to publish. I'll just go to discussion session. For every good article, when you go to last paragraph, you see that these are their gaps. This is what they felt they could have done better. And sometimes it's not you that put it, it's the reviewer that will tell you, no, you have problem in your article, put them there so that someone will learn. Or sometimes someone will tell you, no, you must put a future direction. We have actually, maybe this is actually something I just showed yesterday. It's actually around malaria. People are saying, no, we have forget about malaria will come to the whole of Nigeria or the whole of the country to say, no, we are doing ITMX. We are doing chemoprophylaxis. We are actually in a situation that we are doing even Nigeria, what they call subtelery. Kano is different from Lagos. Lagos is actually having even a healthcare system that is actually even at par with so many high income countries. When you look around the metrics, Yobe is having the worst indices, maybe close to even Afghanistan. Very, very serious there. So sometimes you go there, learn ideas. Sometimes you can even search for a nation. So many things you learn there. So I felt when you are getting concept and ideas, the discussion part is actually one of the first key things you could actually learn from. No. I think this is just around developing a research concept. This is actually a repetition of what she said. Basically, when we are developing ideas or when we're developing a research concept, we actually start from maybe even our title or research question or hypothesis. To actually say this is what I wanted to do, which is actually the first step. And then we actually develop our methodology, then we go to even designing or but article structure is actually around, you start from the title, your abstract, your keywords, introduction. This is not something that you have actually said. And this is just a footnote around reading papers, around talking to experts in conferences. Every conference you see people sharing ideas. You see nations, you see a lot of things which you can conceptualize here. Attend talks, I think it's very important, even in local conferences. Questions are really something. We do your best. Sometimes you go in online, you see something like been done in Asia, in so many places. Yesterday in the meeting, the minister was saying they want to do what we call the sector-wide approach. They went to Tanzania, they are bringing around maternal, how to reduce maternal reduction. So it's something when you go online, you see like this, and you can really test that. Yes. The next key thing I like to use cartoons in my slide is that you know a lot about your research, but do not assume editors and viewers does. And I think that's really the mistake you do. Sometimes you go, you do your statistical analysis, you put p-value, you put things, you do that. And I think that's what even new research, even new journals are really encouraging. That you need to have a plain summary. What is really the policy? What's really the industrial recommendation? But one key problem we have, and which I felt maybe sometimes I do, is that we assume people understand the language we speak. Someone is in pharmacognosy, he will be talking around those binders, those trichomes, and quite a lot of things. But the main issue is people who read them, the people, it's beyond even researchers. You see policymakers, you see government, you see industries reading those key things. You're talking around binders. but you expect an industry to actually say, oh, compound trap and I want to use it. What's really the new innovation, methyl cellulose? So basically, those people that are there, they are forget pharmacognosy. Sometimes even someone that read economics, they're ready. But the main key thing is that you simplify what really is. So that's really one key thing I think we should take from here. Cover letters. When you want to publish any article, the first key thing any journal will ask you is that you need to bring the cover letter. And cover letter is very, 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 very simple. And I think in my career, I haven't applied for many jobs, but the first key thing I learned is that dear sir or madam, it's not really a smart way of doing anything. Is it fellowship? Is it even jobs? It's not really a smart way. If you go online, you see someone being quoted. I think it shows some level of you have really researched or you have you know what really you are doing. So many of us go to actually journals to actually say, well, let's write it. Someone have maybe he has a family issue. He will just say it as an editor, you just say reject. You just click a button and everything will come back to you. So writing a cover letter is really very important. It's not part of the process, but it actually influences, it actually tells someone that, oh, this person knows what he's doing. And it's not something you need to just go to write 2 pages something. I think the ideal cover letter should be less than 1 page. The 1 page is okay, but it should be less. Basically, it should be simple, it should be straightforward, easy to use, and you can do like 2-3 paragraphs. I have never done beyond 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph I do write is actually around we're pleased to submit on behalf of the authors. Just write my article title, and also I'm submitting to this journal. The second is actually to write just simple 3-4 sentences, 3-4 lines to actually say, this is what our article is. This is just a summary. I'm writing on maybe prevalence of drug abuse. This is actually what it is. What really is innovative? This is the first research that has been done in Nigeria. This is actually the first. It might not be the first, but it actually have great implications. I felt this will actually change the policy landscape due to prevalence of this. That's really what it is. Straightforward. It actually sells your story. The top paragraph I do is that you actually correct every nonsense you have. Sometimes I go ahead to say, no, we don't have conflict of interest. Because sometimes articles, journals really ask for that. You might feel like maybe one of the editors, you have issues with him, you don't want him to review. We don't have conflict, we don't have funding, we don't have so many things you can write there, everything. And just say we pray that and allow this to actually go to peer review. So that's really what the cover letter is. And every journal you're submitting, they need that to actually say that what are you really pushing. So it's just very simple. And these are just 2 sample I actually just screenshot before, just to just show us how it is. Okay. After cover letter, the next thing is actually to have your own manuscript. And there are 2 processes. Some journals like Elsevier will actually tell you you need to remove your front page because it's actually a peer review. So they don't want you to put your name, your affiliation, and everything because it's a blind peer review. So they want you to remove it. But other journals like really like BMC and quite a lot of them don't care. So they have a way to actually remove it or even inform the reviewers. So those key things is actually very important. You actually look around what really a journal does. But majority of them, the title and keywords are really very simple. People doesn't want you to put so many languages, so many things in your article. I think the highest I've seen is actually titled 30 words for a title. That's the highest. They don't need so many grammars. As much as it's simple, it actually portray what you need to do. And the second thing for title I have seen so many people critique is that it's very important to actually put context to it. Context is very important. Like for example, I'm actually writing an article on drug abuse in Katsina on Nigeria. You know, sometimes we actually generalize. Someone will just write drug abuse in Africa because, for example, Abuja is there. But it has this advantage, and it also had an advantage. The major disadvantage is that people will feel it's actually a big research or something. It's actually something. But narrowing it down, it's more better. Because, for example, when someone is actually searching for articles in Abuja that have been published, part of his keyword might be Abuja, which might be missed out. So it's very important to actually contextualize your title in what you are doing. And it should reflect the main content. Because sometimes you actually finish reading an article, you see the topic, it's just like our normal media headline. You see the difference between the headline and the main body is totally different to sell an agenda. So I think it's really disadvantage, and I don't think there's any journal that will take you serious with that. User abbreviation is not allowed in every journal. You hardly see any journal, except it's actually a normal official abbreviation to do. But hardly a majority of them doesn't. Then back to the abstract. Before, journals accept what we call the unstructured abstract. They'll just tell you 350 words, just write empty within those less than 350 or 300 words. But along the way, so many journals have made it to be structured. I have seen majority have done that. Structured in the sense that you have your introductions, you have your methodology, you have your discussion, and you have your conclusion. And you summarize everything. If you think your research is even 10,000 words or 50,000, you must summarize them in that 300 words. So that's really what they do. So that abstract is it actually helps. It helps people to actually say, no, what really is this research study? You don't need to go and look at content. So that abstract really sells. And majority, you can see, they don't allow also abbreviation that abstract. What they don't allow reference also. So you don't reference something. Anything you do is directly what you know, not referencing it. So that's really what it is. The methodology, like I said, and the results are really important. They're the best thing, and they're the important aspect of your article. So for anyone who is coming to read your article or any job, the method is the first thing editor is going to see. Is this person wasting my time? Because he's telling me, no, I need chi-square. Or he doesn't even have social demographic or something to actually even inform. So you're skipping something, you're hiding something. So when they see any methodology that is actually, it might be okay, but he felt you are hiding so much from them. So that's really why sometimes it doesn't help. So it must entice the audience to read on. I think that's really the important thing. Your results, sometimes you see results that are not even logical, they don't flow. Someone is actually telling you, no, he first do in pharmaceutical chemistry. Sometimes you go and put maybe acid or something like that. But someone is telling you, no, he has gotten his inference first. Then he's doing a backward integration, which we thought is not really important. So those key things, sometimes logical presentations are very important. I know even sometimes when we're in school, sometimes someone will tell you, no, even the bar lines or something, there are ways to put them up, which I felt is really the same thing. I think pharmacists have an edge in that sense because we wrote so many practicals, everyday practicals, and they are the same. The difference are normal. And majority of journals doesn't accept beyond 5 to 6, 7 tables, figures, because anything beyond 5, 6, 7 is actually something that doesn't make sense. Sometimes you actually put everything together to actually help. So the discussion and conclusion, like she said, is actually just to show how significant is your result. How significant, because the result and discussion are entirely different. The result is just that today I said I actually put 2 spatula of maybe the poison. It gave me a result. So I write the result, what have I done? But the discussion is not repetition. Discussion is not a repetition of result. It's actually what's the implication of putting that 2% or any 2 spatula of poison? Does it have any therapeutic importance? Does it even kill the patients? The same thing does 0N as we see. Someone will say, no, you have killed the patient. But what really is the implication for people that have done that? What has ABC have said? What has C or D have said? Because the main key thing is that you feel you have knowledge. Someone will tell you, no, I give a patient maybe 5 ml of a drug. He died. Someone will say, no, he died not because of that, because of active pharmaceutical ingredient, because it has an issue with him. There's a bias in that. But me, I'll just say, no, it's not because of that. He might have ruled out some things. Maybe his titration might be wrong, or he went to his methodology have issues. So basically that discussion is to say, no, this person that have said A is not correct, it's C. And like she has said, the main key thing is that you debate with so many researchers. Someone will say, because they are giving your peers to review, he's an expert in that field. Or you are actually telling him, no, A is A. He said A is A. You are telling him, no, A is C. Or you are trying to bully him to say, no, it is, but you reference. Him is saying, you tell you, no, it's not. You actually put those things there. So in discussion, you actually reference to say this actually what it is. You agree with that, or you don't agree with that. That's basically what it is. And the last paragraph of discussion is actually able to say, this is what it is. This is what I recommend to the world to do. That's what even people in providing guidelines, like example, the NICE guideline that we see for hypertension, JNC. Basically, if you see the whole report of what it is actually to critique people to do a systematic review analysis. A person from Nigeria said, no, in black, the plate doesn't work. Someone in UK or Europe will say, oh, we have done a randomized control trial, it works. But he has a reference, we don't publish. That's why sometimes we heavily rely on US or UK to give us even guidelines on drugs. Because we literally doesn't do that. Today a drug is out. Like yesterday I was reading Gilead. Gilead is actually putting billions, more than 100 billions. I was in Germany, we actually have a work we're doing with them. Basically finding a HIV cure in children, they're putting like over 100 billion. If you see the research they are putting every day, basically they are more interested in just publication. To actually even say, no, we actually put these papers, take it to NIH. You say this actually our justification. Quickly, you will check those data. So those discussions are really important to actually say, even those key things that are bad, they don't really matter. This is really what is important. The conclusion is just a detailed summary of what you do. You don't reference it. Just like result and conclusion, you don't reference anything. You actually tell them, no, this actually stand alone, this is what summary of what your discussion is saying. This is what you are. This is just showing peer review that improve your work, which we have said so many times. And sometimes, for many of us who want to see how peer review works, there are journals that have actually put what we call open peer review. So when you publish in any Nature, that's in BMC journals, you actually go online, any BMC journal, top you see peer review, so you can see the whole of what the journal went through, what the peer reviewer has said, what the comment was, what the answer was, and how those discussions have engaged. So those, for example, even Prof, well, not every journal is actually. This is just showing after you have submitted your journal, after you have submitted your article to a journal, what really comes back, which is almost 99%. You hardly see a journal or an article. I've seen one or two or three, which we call editorials. It's just an editor will just say, no, I'm actually based on my own opinion or something like just flow. Because sometimes some article need to go out sharply, but it goes through editorials. So for any journal, for every article, majority I've seen quite very few that doesn't come back to revise it. So when you submit an article, it takes 1 to 2 months. It depends on the journal policy. They actually send it out after it has passed what we call Dex review. Editors actually look at it, no, it conforms to those scope, it conforms to everything in its specification. So it actually go to what we call peer review. We send to your peers, sometimes even people that have the same article, people who cite in your discussion to actually critique your work. What have you done? What's important? The visibility is right, everything is right. So it comes back to what we call revising stage. Sometimes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, it depends on how fast the process is. So it comes back with a long list of comments. We call them comments. They will tell you that your peer reviewers, 1, 2, 3, it depends on journal, sometimes 4, some 5. The highest I have gone to is 4 or 3. Someone will just say, oh, I have this comment, you must answer them for it to public. when you come to this revising stage, they ask for three things. They ask you for what they call a point-by-point response. So if you list at 50 comments, you go one by one to answer them. So when it comes there, you actually put a template. At that, you actually need what also we call a cover letter. Just put a screenshot of what it is. Actually put your address, you are receiving with editor, not the peer reviewer, saying that we have received your comments and this is our response. Sometimes editors have their own comments, it might be based on specification or even that he doesn't believe in it, or you need to provide more facts to actually portray your point. So editors are not really problematic, they don't really have influence in that. But in case you see, you actually send it to your reviewer, you put a cover letter which is actually the same thing as a point by point. Maybe I'll share sample for people to see. Basically, you actually go point by point to actually say, no, he said, no, this sentence is not correct. You need to do language. In a good tone, you actually tell him that you thank him because he's doing a free job. To actually say, no, I thank you, but this actually what I felt. If you agree with him, go ahead and change. If you don't agree with him, you put it in reference. This is actually what this journal has said. Like just what she has said. So many times we actually debate, but later they understand that it's not really your fault, it's actually their own fault. So it's actually just a mediation to actually share knowledge. So that's really what revising is. Majority of times, they actually ask for three documents. There's a point-by-point response, and majority of journal will tell you, no, you actually need to respond in track changes. So in Microsoft Word, when you go to review, there's actually where you see track changes. So sometimes people will say, no, we have done this, but they haven't done it. It's just how to manipulate the system. But majority of journal will say, no, submit your own revision in actually track changes. So you actually put those things to actually reflect that it has done. Then also some will actually say, no, you have to provide a clean copy. So you just accept. There's actually a review accept changes there to be sure. So it depends on the journal. But basically those two documents, point by point response, which actually have a cover letter and also those track changes that you have made. So there's actually an article that I was reading, which have actually been very important. We can actually search online from the editor's debt, a systematic guide to revising a manuscript. When you search, you see it was published by the owner of that. So it's actually very, very good. It actually should point by point how to revise your own journal or your own article when editor or a peer reviewer. So these are just screenshots showing how you actually review. So even at the revising stage, I just put additional screenshot of what the point by point response and also how cover letter to this just I know she prof actually talk around how if rejected, which will happen a lot. We have seen journals that even before you send, we have sent all is rejected. So it's very, very normal. Sometimes even you actually even get better journal. It's just that they are not interested in publication so many obvious reasons. There are times that we'll go to a journal that was so below, we thought, no, it will just be just fast food. But later we'll find out that no, it was rejected. We'll just say, let's go to the top, you see. Sometimes even there are times that we argue with the editor. There was a time in the journal, one of the good journals, the mentor, one pharmacist was going for very good research. They actually went that that's rejected because it took 2-3 months. Then we were asking, no, if it was a debt rejection, it should just take 1-2 days. Why are you holding it? Let it go to the We debated. Then later we actually push it to a big journal. It actually passed. So that's really how it is. So you get rejected. Because I just sent an article, the first key thing in my mind is that just send me the rejection. It's very normal. But you find somewhere for it. It's just a no. You will find a better place for it. So that's really what it is. The reference, I think, is very, very important. And I think a lot of journals really put references on. There are journals that will tell you that they need head citations. I know a lot of Springer PMC likes those numbers. You see 1, 2, 3, that's what we call that text reference. And there's also some that will actually tell you what they need that Harvard style. You just be all those things. So anyway, you actually use, as much as you are using an automatic reference software and your payroll mentally, it's actually easier. Sometimes I like also doing manual to actually do that. So both ways are really, really important. For me, sometimes it really helps me to actually check what really have I missed out to actually sometimes software. So I actually also use the manual, but they are actually software. So you could see them listed to actually see this what it is. So it's more easier. Then submission checklist. I actually put a submission checklist after your reference, after everything. For every journal, they have actually a checklist. They say, no, this is what we need to put in place. And the peer review, sometimes even authors have actually complained. And so many emerging journals are actually responding to that. For example, PLOS journal that just came in, they're actually telling us, no, if you like, just put anything together. They don't care. As much as your manuscript is very sound, it actually makes the peer review. But majority of those orders, for example, they say that they actually have blended model. Some will tell you, no, they need a reference that is this, or they need you to put your journal in a logical manner. They actually think it very important. But the bottom line is, there are actually some very, very important checklists. To always consult the journal guide, that's the journal score. You see every journal, there's no journal that doesn't have a guideline score to actually say this is what they need. So it's very important when you have your own minds, just check it. It's not really much. Ensuring that the following items are present, the corresponding author is very, very important. You might have 30, 50, sometimes even 1,000 of authors, but they should have someone who is really designated as the corresponding author. It mustn't be someone who is the first or last author. I know those are widely published. You understand what a first author means and a last author means. But for knowledge sake, a first author is actually someone that really is the basic person that does the majority of the thing, while the last author is actually like the supervisor. So many times when you go to job, they'll tell you, no, we need to see your first and last author, which I felt for Nigeria, we don't really put importance in that. But as much as you go for conferences, you go for meetings, the only thing you ask, which one are you, first author or last author? Last author show that you mentor, you actually do that. But here it feels like, someone is punishing you. When someone see you in the last author, you say, no, you are just a ghost author. But it means a lot for people who are. And for first author is actually your primary one. And there's also a corresponding author who engages with author, who engages with the journal. Majority we do that because he corresponds, engage, check, and sometimes for funding. It's actually what we call article processing charges for many journal acts that you pay. So for people who are actually in institutions who have subscriptions or private affairs, so it really helps to actually navigate this process. Then also, some journal will tell you, no, your figure, your tables must be different. It must be put in different file. Some journal, like I said, they actually ask you to put your title, the front page. That's your title, your abstract, to be indifferent because they don't want to identify the author. So you actually need to check. Some keywords, some journal will tell you they need a keyword 6, 3, 5, but the highest I've seen is 8. So you need to know which one. So some figures will tell you that they need a caption, they need a legend down to actually explain what really your figures means. Then also tables. Some journal will actually tell you that they need a description. Some will even tell you that if you are putting figures, you need to tell you the software you have done. They actually published one EMC public health. It was published, it was accepted in 6 months, but it took 3 months to actually enhance that figure. They were saying use one software, we need to send them their license, we need to do that. It's actually a Manchester HIV sector. But it took like 3 months. I don't know what really caused that, but they were interested in knowing how we did that figure. Is it someone, maybe their software showed them that someone has the copyright, which is very important. Figure sometimes has copyright, someone will sue them or other things. So it's very important to actually put that. Then also further consideration, sometimes some journal will tell you, no, your funding source. For example, I work in a place that almost everything is funded. someone will say, why are you doing that? So sometimes you actually need to have what we call declarations. You declare your funding source, you declare a conflict, and they are just basic statements. For funding, normally we write funding by this foundation, but this doesn't reflect their own source, their own implication. They don't have any interest. For example, people in pharma, very, very important. You hardly see someone that has a pharma affiliations. I work maybe, for example, in Amazon, but I'm publishing something because you have conflict of interest in that sector. You actually put that this funding doesn't do this. So you actually see those key things. Manuscript need to be spell checked. And I think 80% of the articles signed actually come back with the first comment you see is that you need to have a native speaker. You tell you need to have a native speaker to read it. While sometimes you actually check there's no distance. But I felt there are things that sometimes is when you publish or something, you go, oh, I noticed I put this. Well, I forgot. There was a journal in the published, I think early this year with the it's actually around the strategy of Nigerian health insurance. It was after we published that because I was the corresponding author. I forgot, even the main figure wasn't there. It was even last, I said, I read that thing more than 30 times. But I didn't notice the main figure wasn't in that journal. It was after you asked me, you put figure 3. Why is figure 3 there? I noticed, man, I didn't even have it. After I even deleted the file, then I did that. So it's actually good to actually check for those spelling, grammar, and kind of text. Reference are in the right format, and you have permission, that's what I said. When conflict of interest is very, very important. And I think this just to motivate many people. I think in the last 4 years, I actually started this job. And you could actually see PubMed actually putting this article. I just put it yesterday. I'm just showing the prevalence of impact of psychotic software among people. That was my first article I did in 2021. And I could see this was just that first right left is actually just showing the first comment I would say. 5 pages. I actually look at it, I say, man, how do I even start? You can see from the title, he was asking, thank you for asking me to review. This paper seeks to address a very important public health topic, some issues that could be. So he said title, that was the first one. He followed line by line. There's no line that doesn't have feedback. He said title, I believe this is well conceived and appropriate if the authors have stuck to the balance only in their. He's just telling me that even the title is not even correct. I sat down, I can remember, first morning I was telling, I have a colleague that is in UCL, in the University College of Development. He said, Yusuf, see, you did this work, we help you work. He doesn't think he has the energy to do this. I said, let me try to see how best possible. I sat down within those months, I actually did almost 95% of the farming. The only key thing was actually at that time, I was learning data analysis. So there was some comment we actually raised that even how we arrange grant so many things. I did that, I sent to him. Actually, they were all lecturers. I think all have that time I just made my account. I said, see, this is what I want to do. I need to publish that. The main key thing is that I presented this abstract, I think, in 3-4 places. And what really just the first point is that I actually start to feel I need to go into science for my undergraduate. I actually did something on HIV with what just said. They actually, every day they will call me 6 a.m., go to the clinic to do the 2 consultants call me and say, this is your supervisor, he's just stopping you. Stop this, you have already got that, because it was actually looking around the whole predictors of isoniazid concomitant therapy with HIV drug at that time. You were just disturbing me. Why would you do that? You are not a doctor, you do this. I actually did. And the first thing after we did, he told me, let's publish it. I said, no, me, I want to publish it. Then, yeah, this is my last slide, I think. Then I actually told him that, see, let's publish it. I was very interested. Then, at that time, I actually see, it was what we call the gate, which I'm actually on their board. I saw that they are doing a conference in Berlin at that year. I just submitted my answer. I just told him, just forget about that. and I got a fully sponsored trip to actually to Bali. Then COVID came, then I got some goodies from them. And I think that's really what inspired the journey. And I have assisted, and I think we are getting better, hopefully. And I think just to inspire many of you, I think for research, it has gone a lot for me. I don't think till today I haven't applied for a job, and I want to do, but I think from my day, from my NYC, I remember I presented my undergraduate in one contract. I got, I think, 4 of us from SFH, FHR, and the minister gave me a job, and I think the first lady at that time. So that's what has driven that. And I think for being hopeful, and I think I've been to 16 countries fully funded by research, and I've gotten a lot of goodies and that. So I think it's something that many of us can follow this path. I think not only for the goodies, and I think also for our career growth. So just try to show some of our research we have done, and we are published in basically all journals, 30 plus. I think in 3-4 years we have published more than 30 all scopes. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A blend of the old and the young, so that you can balance the combination. I think the essence is to say it's not a difficult thing, and if you could do it in 4 years, you can imagine, if you put a timeline within 2 to 3 years, you can also surpass its own benchmark. So it's time for questions and answers. As usual, we'll start with the on-site, then we'll go to online. And I must say our third presenter is also around, Dr. Hassan. Yeah, welcome, sir. So let's start from here this time around. Questions, comments? Okay, next, middle side, anybody? At the back? Are we tired? Okay, that's number 1. Let's go to that side. Questions? Okay, number 2, number 3. Is that all? Okay, online people, if you have questions, you can actually indicate or write it there, we'll read it. Let's start with the first person. Let's be concise and precise in the question, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. You actually said something about this concept publication, that the policy that was about to meet, but later the government reviewed it and then changed the policy. I want to find out, does our government consult these publications, journals, to make policy? That's what I want to find out.
Just note you will respond to them. Second one.
Okay, good afternoon all. Permit me to still comment the presenter for wonderful presentation. Now, my question is this. Now, we may not want to admit it, but by nature of man, every man will have his own bias. And whether we like it or not, whichever publishing house that are looking at, maybe BMC or Plaza, they have their own editorial bias. Now, we may state it, but usually we know the way this is what we don't state it. So I want to ask you, with your wealth of experience on this particular issue, how do you think we can be able to deal with that? It has to be ideological, it could be based on the beliefs, the value system, or based on the experiences. But how do you think we can guard against the bias so that we can have a very fantastic rate of journal publishing? Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you very much for this inspiring presentation. I have 3 questions for you. The first question is, please shed more light on the difference between article, journal, and database. Then, secondly, you said journals, one should not send more than 5 to 6 tables. So what of figures? Or the total of the tables and the figures should not be more than 5 to 6? That's second. And the third question is, how do we even submit these journals? Like you made mention of BNC, that right now they are collecting these journals. How do we even go about, how do we even submit these journals?
Okay, before we give it to him, there are two questions from online people. The first one is saying, can the speaker teach us how to go about applying? I think that one is recorded by the third speaker here. That question. Then the next question is, thank you for elaborating on the processes needed for successful completion of article. What's the question? Oh, it's not a question, it's a comment. Okay. What sites do we go to? I think it's the same follow-up from Olabukola. Olubukola. Yes, I mentioned that. On what?
For something about validation, like before a questionnaire is used, should it be validated? And does it need validation? And if not, what?
Thank you so much. I think very, very good question. The first thing someone asked around Lancet Journal, actually with the government, TWU or something like that. Basically, I think those processes, sometimes most of these processes, policy making, regulatory making, and lot of them, they're actually not the one that's with. For example, when you take policy work, it's government that's actually put policy, but they're actually not a process. There's actually stakeholder engagement, there's actually evidence gathering, there's actually even champions what really does. So basically, the government might not really go to check those jobs. No, they have teams, they have technical teams, which actually make recommendations to them. But along those ways, you actually see places that evidence works. Evidence in the sense that sometimes even government, before they implement any policy, what they actually create policy, they actually create what they call technical working groups. Technical working groups sit down to actually collate those key things, not really the merits, what's really the demerits. So those key things, that's where those evidence works. It might not really be published or unpublished works those. But the main key thing, for example, I've seen so many times when I've sat down where in places where guidelines for HIV treatment have been done. I was in Canada and some drugs were actually being put in place. The WHO actually called for first scientific validation of what really works. Then also industries, for example, Gilead, members and Pharm came to say, no, this is what they have seen in the lab, or this is what they have seen in doing those randomized trials. Randomized trials in the sense that they actually find people put on drugs, put on this what it means. But there's actually beyond what even scientific does. There's actually even a whole social behavior. What's the acceptability, what's the even traditional, what's even the environment. Because, for example, when you look at this HIV medication, it's actually what we call the lab that was happening in 2022. It's actually like 100,000 pounds to actually inject. It's just a 6-month drug. So they are actually doing some things related to, in Africa, what does it mean? There's actually medication access probably some pooling, financial pooling. To actually say, if we can subsidize or we can remove a patent, it will cost $5 for the whole day. So those are key processes that research comes in. It's not just government. Even people that actually went to remove fuel subsidy must have done its cost-benefit analysis, cost-effective analysis. What does World Bank? They have actually done those things. They actually remove people from the vulnerable from even paying more, the elites are paying less, all those things. It might really be biased, but that's really what evidence does. As much as you don't publish what you do, it doesn't deal with them. They already have their own bias or agenda to sell. We actually discuss around even us pharmacists. When you look around their blogs that we actually take in Africa, when you look at them, there's actually no surveillance. You hardly see for surveillance evidence. You actually even guide people in UK or US doing that.
And these are drugs that only was taken. So those are key things. So they will actually rely on what they have known in the lab, which might also be different from implementation sciences. So the main key thing is that the more evidence around, the more it actually shows. And for many of us who are researchers, there is also a whole pyramid of showing how level of evidence is. You have the narrative review, it's actually less, actually lesser than what we call the original article. Also, a systematic review or meta-analysis is higher. It's also appraisal, scientific appraisal, like the WHO guideline, quite a lot of things. So it depends on what really you are putting out, what it really matters. Then the second question around editorial bias. I think we're actually in a scientific gathering, but I felt in Boulder, there's nothing that doesn't have agenda. And I could tell you, forget about all the language someone will come from US is telling you. This thing that just comes, just does, it actually shows you that it's not us they are doing, it's actually them. Every day you go to the news, it's us that's supposed to shout, but it's them that say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You're doing that. People are getting overhead costs, 90%, 60%, you actually get funding. I actually work in the public health space in the sense that you hardly see 40% drop in it. They're actually what we call those organizations, lobbyists. It's also the same thing with Pharm and lobbyists. They're actually lobbyists who their work is actually they go to the regulatory. They are mounted there. They fund election cycles, they fund policy cycles. They do a lot of things. So it's actually the time. So when you look around, I'm actually part of those people and quite from few researchers that have actually been saying we need to even reimagine what global health research is. When you look around, the main researchers that are coming out, it's actually from Harvard. Because I have an affiliation from Harvard, it gives me an edge to actually say, no, I have a serious one. But that doesn't work. Someone from Harvard or something will do what we call helicopter research. That's what we call today. Helicopter research means is that some people from Harvard will just get a grant from $100 million. But they'll be telling you they want to know the effectiveness of even the IT and the use. Synthesize treatment. They will be in Harvard, they will put overhead that will pay their salary in the next 5 years. Also, they are PhD listed to get research. But they will put 1, 2 people from my organization to say, no, don't do some next review or just collect some data. They don't even acknowledge in the manuscript. There are always that you have done the work, which I felt those are key conversations that are coming up. Even some journals are just there. They have been open to actually address that. When you look around 90% of even the global health editors are from the global world. They don't care about you. If you send this to the your affiliation is just one of the university. You just start how many publications have they done in the year. You just feel. Even my department will tell you one person is actually having the whole research that have been done in 10 years. So those are key bias. And I think as agent of change, it's something that many of us have actually tried to actually fight that. It will take time, but it actually changing. The main key thing I will tell us here is that we just need to take ownership. We actually wrote a book around the development past 40 years, with the minister of the forward. Basically, it's saying that we can't just be doing the same thing that when someone from UK, his maybe just find a secret. They have never gone to Nigeria, but you just find someone that is just from school. You just say, no, technical assistant, 40% of your budget. You just tell you know 40% of the budget. Why he doesn't even know what Nigeria does. They have never known Nigeria, he doesn't know the content. So that's really what it's a whole politics. And I felt with the way people are actually going, it's actually changing. But it actually changed when people actually provide evidence to see they have arrived. Even the Lancet Nature, I can tell you someone did analysis in the last 2 years. 1 in 100 is from even global south, where we have majority of the world, over 80%, but we can't really produce those things. So I felt those 3 things is something that when we move into this thing, so we actually own ownership. We say, no, without the editor say it's actually one of the best things that has happened to the world. Because consider it, that's when you say, oh, this person has what to do. But you own it. So sometimes, even beyond traditionally going on, you actually make friends, make a conference, make your work. And so, see, we have some beautiful work. Even this integration, we met in Germany, literary conference. So we did a beautiful work. Say, send an email. Send an email, this is what we did. said actuarial, we did that. We said submitted. That's how we actually go this one. So that's how those key things are. It's not that you just say, no, you submit, it doesn't work. You take ownership. One has seen that you just be simple. You take ownership of everything you do. Then the third question is around shed more light on article, journal, and data. I felt it's actually very simple. An article is actually what you write, what an author has written, what's really published. A journal is like a media house, it's like Punch, it's like Daily Trust, it's like every other media house. Their own is more like, let's get money, let's have this, let's do that. They're actually pursuing science, but their main goal is actually to get money. You don't do it for free, even if you're not paying, someone is paying. That's really what the journal house is. Majority of databases are funded by what we call government to promote visibility of science. To be sent is actually a database for what we call the National Institute for Health in the US. They're interested in any health paper when you publish today. In a week time, you see it on there to actually promote visibility. So that's different between an article and what we do. Journal don't publish it while what we call the database will index it to actually promote. So it's just like a copy and paste what journal has done, but to just make it more visible, more enticing. So I think that's important. Issue around 5 to 6 tables, like I said, is not really a blanket outlook. So many journals encourage to go more. But basically, to make it more better, it's actually maximum of 6 tables and tables at the same time. There are actually sometimes that we publish more than, when we put more than 6 times, we actually did a market research study. We're trying to see, since government is not interested in the HIV sector, how do you ensure that even the private sector can actually achieve the enabler? So we published like 7 people showing that when you do this, when this problem arises, according to there are exceptions. But basically, the majority of journals put 6 for both. And also, how do we submit a journal? And I think I wanted us to do a practical to see what we do next, what time. But basically, when you go to the journal, you have chosen the journal you need. Basically, on the right hand corner, majority some is down, you see the right submit article. So basically, majority is not the same with the journal article, journal page, and also why to submit. You actually see some micro website that actually you can submit, you see where you start from cover to end. So it's very simple. And for anyone who has a talent, contacts are there. You can just push out. And also something that Xavier have a full website, the course, we can even give you a certificate on doing that. So when you check Xavier Academy, ELSEVIER, they have like 6, 7 free courses. You can actually do the publishing, how to write, how to review, how to do that. So when you put Xavier Academy, so they have video type, you actually learn, and you need certificate they actually have. And then also, teach us how to get to do about publishing, which I did. What side do we go? Yes. Then also the last question around questionnaire. And I think Prof has really shown something around it. So for method, it's actually 2 ways. It's either you are inventing the way, or you are doing your own, or you are doing something that has been done. So when you create anything your own in science, it actually assumes that you don't have that full power to actually say, oh, I can do it alone. You can do it alone, but you need to show processes. So when you see methodology for when you are creating something, you start from your study design. If you are doing an application of national data, you need to tell the researcher, far away from here, what is even national data? He doesn't know it. You need to know what's even the population. Is it go to make hypothesis to actually assign process? Is it good to actually say, even this place is actually a lot? Is it heterogeneous enough? Is it so it's a lot of things from your study design? You go to study maybe even your study type, your questionnaire, or even scientific way to do it. So basically, how do you validate? You actually say, no, you're asking people questions. Are you sure that they can understand in their own psychological? When you actually do what we call reliability and validity policy. Before, what we did, and I think when I started research, you just find some few people. Sometimes we don't. You actually write people name. I have find an expert from NCBC, and I have done that. I actually published an article about those problems. I actually went to say, no, I found an expert to do face validity. I give him 5 for it. Yeah. You raise it, you actually bring it. So reliability, I actually went to students, which are actually choose part. They actually answer that it's okay. So it's actually evolution that has changed to say that people can lie. So things have changed. Sometimes many journals accept that approach. The majority of what they want is actually really quantitative. You actually commit 5%. What is even the reliability of that question? You go to SPSS and find out of tools. You actually say there's actually a range. What's the reliability? What's the even after class coefficient? What's even the so there are a lot of quantitative. So basically, I still learn them. Sometimes I go to a journal to just see methodology. How do we do this? So you see so many things like that. So it's actually a learning approach every day. And because of issues that have happened, so people change. Someone will tell you, no, he's asking someone else a no question, or he's using that file that skill. But basically, it doesn't even answer what. And lately, you'll be drawing conclusion. It doesn't even have the same quality with what you have set up. So that's really what. So when you actually create your own questionnaire, it's left for you to actually do validation. Someone is validating that no, it answers those things. But there's also the other way, which is adaptation. There's actually today, I'm actually doing, for example, any study on mental health. I actually go out, I'll go to James, not James, you want to use mental health. There's actually so many questionnaires that are the way to have. So I go there, pick it up, to actually say that's really adapted. So when you go to questionnaire, when you go to the methodology, you don't need to do any studies that all these things. You actually go there and say, this methodology has been adapted by so. So that's really adaptation. Sometimes it's not even official questionnaire. You go to a study. I saw maybe Erica has published that. I want to use that. This study have adapted the questionnaire from so study. It's left for the supervisor or any peer review to go back. You don't need to put it in. You go back and say, no, does it work? Need something. What's its limitation? Sometimes its limitation might say, no, it is not being used. It cannot be translated. There are so many questionnaires that it will tell you can't translate it. It's not good. So it's left for him to actually check the limitation. If it has those limitations, you say, no, it doesn't. But it does. If it has no limitation, so it's actually no methodology is very good. So those are two key ways to actually go about it.
Yes, there are only, thank you very much. There are 2 questions that you give short answers to. The first one was on the on display, where the participant is asking whether the revising stage is the same thing with peer review. In your presentation, you made presentation on the revising stage in the process, whether that connotes peer review. Then the second question here, which needs just a short answer to, is after submitting an article, you realize that one of the names of the co-author was omitted. What do you do?
The first question around peer review. As long as you submitted an article, when you go online, you see the status. It's normal status. You see with editor. The first thing you see with editor. With editor means it has actually goes to the first preliminary phase, whether it's suitable for the journal to actually reject. There are 3 ways. Actually, even put the first thing that is left for the editor is actually against his will. He likes you or not. Is he allowing you to go to peer review, or is he that's rejected? That's rejected is just to tell you, no, we are not interested. Just go back. And mostly it takes 1 week. That's the 1 week. Many good journals, a good journal should do that within the journal. So that's really what it is. Then the peer review stage is actually when it goes to peer review, you see it goes to peer review. So it actually takes 3 decisions. First is that it's rejected because there are a lot of issues. or it comes with major corrections for minor. That's minor comes with acceptance with minor revision. So it's just small things. So there's a whole process of that. Then the next.
Submitted and others report for publication, and you realize you omitted one of the authors. What do you?
There's check and balance in those cases because it's not like when a journal is just accepted, you just click to accept. No. Even post acceptance is like 3 stages. The first is that there's a correction phase. Proofread, they call it proofread phase. They will tell you in red, every journal will tell you in red. Anything that passes this proofread stage, it has gone. Even if it's a correction, it has gone. But there are 2 instances which might undermine the integrity of the journal, which is very important. There's nothing like integrating the journal. If you are pursuing it legally, that no, this is your journal, you have contributed, because I will need us to actually go online. What's even is also some specification to actually be part of a journal position, design, pilot of things. But if legally you said, they actually call retraction, which is more complicated. When, as a scientific author, someone retracts your article, you are in problem. Because it's like it has undermined integrity. And one of the key integrity issues is that you need to make sure you acknowledge everyone that is there. Because it's his own work. Because anyone that you see in a journal, he has actually contributed. So now that someone is pursuing is saying no, the main key thing is that settle it before coming is formal. Because it might cause a lot of problem. When a journal has been retracted based on methodological flaws, issues around those, it might really have issues with you. Things like that. The second thing is just to play with it because I don't think some journals have. They actually put what they call what is actually very hard. They call it gender. So they will put your article, then they will put a mistake, which they normally take responsibility for the error they have done, not your own. If you go back, they'll tell you, no, you actually have like 6 processes to do that. You buy, send, post, this thing. But for them, if they are the ones that omit, they will put it. But they won't remove the other one, but they will put that word to actually say this word, this word. So it depends on what people have. So thank you so much, and it's all up to you.
Thank you very much. As usual, we present a letter of appreciation and also seeking his mentorship if any of the participants so wishes to be a mentee. And that's what we want to continue with ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Yusuf Hassan. He's coming.